Welcome back to another character corner. This time we're going to be exploring some aspects about the Ninjago TV series character Lloyd. Yeah, I've got a lot to say about Lloyd as a character. Some of it's not so positive, and don't view that as I don't like Lloyd, because that's absolutely not true. I love Lloyd for what he is. It's just I do have some issues with him as a character, and it's kind of has to do with a lack of things to analyze, really. But I'm going to explain some of the issues, especially as combating that as a writer. Just some things that he presents that you kind of want to avoid in a character. But anyway, let's tackle those kind of systematically. So I have a few points about instead of, like, if you watch my Kai video, you realize that I went through very systematically about the seasons that Kai is featured in. I'm not really going to be doing that here too much, because Lloyd is almost the hero in almost everything, whether forced or not. Like, there's honestly, like, only a couple seasons really where he's not playing a major role. Like, I applaud season 6 for that. Honestly, but most of them do, so it would be very tedious to do that. So instead, I'm going to present 3 issues that I see in the first 7 seasons of Ninjago, and then I'm going to talk about the new seasons and why I actually think Lloyd is probably the best in those seasons. And I'll explain. Just, don't yell at me. I promise I have my reasons for thinking that. I know some people don't like the news, like those seasons 8, 9, and 10. I know some people don't like, because I only do the first 10 seasons like of Ninjago. I know there's more, but it gives me a boundary to analyze in. Also, there will be spoilers, just so you know, for the first 10 seasons. But all right, let's get going. So Lloyd, he's a very interesting character, honestly. At least he starts out that way to me. He starts out as a really good lead-in to be the main protagonist of the series. Like, his dad's evil. He's kind of a brat. He's the youngest, the underdog. He doesn't fit in with anything. He's got a lot to learn, and that all really worked out great. I really did actually like his role for the most part in season 1. I thought that was really good. Like, I saw it coming, but it was still satisfying to watch. So I really liked him there. But after that, it's sort of going downhill for me. So I have 3 kind of things that are problems with Lloyd. So don't get mad at me. I'll probably end up doing more on Lloyd later. Like more in depth, but right now I'm just gonna kind of cover these 3 points as this character corner. I'll probably do like Lloyd 2 character corner or something later on. But the first real problem with Lloyd, in the seasons that come after season 1, is one thing that's kind of hard is his power. And how basically there's almost no limit to it. And I know that sounds kind of maybe weird, but Lloyd's power to me, not only is it confusing, but it also doesn't seem to help him despite it being the most powerful superpower. He gets kidnapped an awful lot, and he doesn't seem to really be able to do much. Like, I know, like, I don't know. Like, yes, he defeats Garmadon at the end, but it still feels like the whole time he's still not as powerful as he's made out to be in this series. And that kind of bothers me a little bit, because, and that's kind of the problem when you write yourself into a very overpowered or OP character like that. You run into a problem of, if there's no limitations or this character's supposed to have the power instead of figuring out the power or something, it becomes tricky because it doesn't make Lloyd interesting. He has this power and he should theoretically be able to defeat anything that comes his way, but he can't most of the time. And I find that a little frustrating with Lloyd, because if he's going to have that power, that's fine for Mega Battle, and yes, he does split it up, but later on they still act like he has the most power, even though he shouldn't be any more powerful later on. After like season 3, I think it is, he gives it to back to the other ninja. He should theoretically be no more powerful than them, but they still treat him like the leader and like the most powerful ninja, and that kind of makes me frustrated with it. Because like every other character with a power has limitations to their power. Like, for example, Zane can only freeze things. There are different things he can freeze and different things he can do with that, but he can only do one thing. And the same goes for Kai. He can only really set things on fire. He's like a living light source, which is, you know, great, and he can burn things, it's fine, but there is still limitations. You know, it's not like he can, you know, he can't do Nia's power, he can't do Zane's power, he can only do his power. And that doesn't seem to be the case for Lloyd, and that makes me a little angry. Like, I get it's meant to be all their powers, and I'm still unclear, honestly, about what it really is, because they say it's like his power is the element of like power. Sometimes they call it energy, which is super vague, and I'm not actually sure what that's supposed to mean, because it's like a glowy orb thing that he can shoot at people, sure, but then he can also, he's shown lighting a torch with it. So I'm really confused. Like, so it works as a light source too? And, you know, and it has like a, you know, I guess I'm gonna call it like a knockback factor to it. But basically, I don't find his power something. It would have been better if it had some limitations, or at least they treated it like a normal power after season 3 when he gave it up. Because that would have been an interesting arc. I think it was a little bit watered down, but I do think it was an interesting arc, him giving up his power, because that obviously leaves him vulnerable. But it doesn't seem to have any lasting effect later too much, and they still treat him the same, so it doesn't have any effect for me that I wanted it to. But yeah. So Lloyd's power, and he depends on it so much, too, which kind of also bothers me. And that's not to say, like, I love watching them use their power, don't get me wrong, but if you only know the character based off their power, then you really haven't done well in defining the character outside of their power. And yes, I love powers. Yes, I think Ninjago does excellent on all their characters, but Lloyd, I think, is the weakest character for that reason. He is mostly defined by his power and how much he uses it. And I think that just bothers me a little bit. So that's my number one problem. Like, not top number one, but I have 3 problems. So that's problem number 1 with Lloyd, I think, is how his power is represented. The other problem kind of goes with that, is, like, it doesn't go with the power, but it's kind of equally on that playing field, is how he takes on the role of leadership and interacts with his friends, I'm going to say, as all one kind of collective thing. The universe, like Ninjago itself, like they treat this team like Lloyd is supposed to be the leader, and I don't understand why that is. Because honestly, logically, it feels like Zane should be the leader to me. But, you know, okay, fine, that's my opinion. But Lloyd, I don't understand what makes him so special, other than that he was the chosen one to fulfill a certain prophecy. Like, other than maybe nepotism, what makes him qualified to be a good leader? Not much, really. I don't know. I don't find that. And he doesn't seem to struggle with it, or if he does, it's like over in an instant. Like, I think the only time he kind of quote-unquote struggles with leadership is in season 7, when Master Wu is kind of sort of dying there, you know, on his bed, which is, once again, that part of the season drove me crazy, because I'm like, last season he was literally gone through the whole season and you led the team fine. You know, why is it like adequate. Why is it a problem now? He's still here. He can still kind of give you advice. Why now? Why is it bothering you so much? Ugh. But, like, honestly, I just want Lloyd to reach the potential he should, honestly, in this series, which should be, like, yeah, I'll get to that. Anyway, it drives me nuts, because I'm like, I don't understand a lot of the time what makes it so... like, why Lloyd should be the leader. I don't understand that at all, because he really... if he struggles with it for a minute, like trying to coordinate the team, he overcomes it really fast. He doesn't ever have an arc of just how to be a good leader and what that entails and how to go about that. It's never like that. It's almost like he just learns, oh, my team was right all along and I need to listen to them, which, yeah, you should listen to your team. But there's also qualities about being a leader that go beyond that as well. And he never has to deal with that. And the other thing, too, is he relies an awful lot on his friends, which I like the team working together, but Lloyd doesn't seem to be able to function without his team. Like, at least in those first 7 seasons at all. Like, he almost can't be an independent entity of his own. Like, Kai can be alone and do his thing. Like, he does too much, maybe, sometimes. Like, he can go up and he can formulate a plan and enact it and solve a problem all on his own. Lloyd doesn't seem to be really capable of doing that, and that bothers me because although I want him to work as a team, I think he also needs to be capable of doing some things on his own enough that he could work out problems. And then number 3, and this one is a little bit, I don't know how to pin it down into a few words. Basically, Lloyd almost has no emotional struggle. For a character who really should have a lot of emotional struggle. There's a lot going on in Lloyd's life, and none of it seems to bother him too much. Like, at all, really. Like, he was basically abandoned by his mom I'll get into Misako another day, because, she drives me crazy. But that should have torn Lloyd up to a degree that, in one episode, shouldn't have been resolved. That should have been like a half a season to a season-wide, or maybe even an entire series-wide arc of him learning to accept and forgive, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he can hold on to a grudge. I don't know. I'd love to see that. Like, give Lloyd real emotion, because that's not something that you can just overcome really fast, and Lloyd does, and that drives me a little bit crazy. The other one is he's fighting his dad, and yes, that probably is the thing that tears him up the most that I've ever seen, but he still does it. He can still do it, and it still doesn't cause him as much of an emotional struggle as I thought it would, and I think it should have. And Lloyd gets rapidly aged into an adult, and that never seems to bother him. And nowhere does it ever seem to come up again later that mentally he's much younger than the rest of the team. And like, he just is like totally cool with that. And I'm like, no, like that would have been a traumatizing thing for him. And it bothers me a little bit. But anyway. So enough of this negativeness. So those are my problems with Lloyd, at least in the first 7 seasons. They are problems, though, that I think were resolved really well, though, in seasons 8, 9, and 10. I know some people have problems with these seasons, but trust me, I understand those problems, and I'm not saying that these seasons are flawless. I'm just saying I think Lloyd really came into his own as a character in those seasons. You can have your problems with everything else. I have problems, too. But Lloyd really became a character I really actually admire, and I'm wowed. I was really impressed with how Lloyd ended up going in that arc for him. Because I would say season 10 is almost like an epilogue, but not much really goes on. But so I'll mostly be talking about 8 and 9 because I feel like they were really good, and they're kind of underestimated in my opinion. At least the good in them. Okay. So, all the problems I presented with Lloyd before kind of get addressed and also really highlighted in that season. And it's all kind of through Lloyd has had villains that he's had to face. His father should have been an emotional thing for him, in my opinion, even though it wasn't 100%. But in this season, they make it more of that emotion. Lloyd really can't come to terms with that his dad's coming back to be a villain, and not only that, like a villain he can't reason with. Like in the first season, in second season, he could reason with him a little. He wasn't totally evil. Like, he was bad, but not like completely bad at the same time. Like, he had components of it. But now it's like he wants to reason with it. And I know it seems kind of cliche, like I'm gonna go try to convince him, but it feels more real because it's what I expected a reaction from Lloyd. It's not like this is Morrow, where Lloyd doesn't even know who that is. Or it's not a villain like that. This is a villain that Lloyd knows well. He's given him advice. He's been his father, and he, especially after knowing him a lot longer, before he died or got banished or whatever, he really has this emotional stake in, no, I can save him. I can convince him not to do this. And I appreciate that because it makes it feel very real to me. And oh, Harumi, man, that was a good villain. Because another problem with Lloyd is he's very naive despite being so powerful, which I actually like that about his character, honestly. That's one of the things I do really like. I love how he's very trusting. And it's like, no, Lloyd, you probably shouldn't do that. But yet he's just that kind of guy. Like, he's just like, I want to trust that person, you know, and I want to believe the best of them. Multiple times it usually blows up in his face. But with Harumi, it felt very like he needed a manipulative villain match. And yes, there are problems with Harumi, but I do think there are really good things about her. She twisted his mind so much by playing the, well, look how similar we are. And making Lloyd, like, she just played that so well. Of, yes, we're both burdened with responsibilities, and we're alone. And we're alone in the world, and we have to, take on these roles. And it sort of isolates Lloyd from the group in a way, and gives him an emotional tie that you just know isn't good, and isn't gonna end well. And Harumi is manipulative, and it still bothers him onward throughout the seasons. Like, I don't think he ever really gets over Harumi. There's something about her that he obviously liked, because he remembers, aspects of her that he liked, and he felt like he belonged with her. Not even just as, like, oh, I like her, I have a crush on her, but even just in general, he felt like they were similar, and because she manipulated him in that direction. Like, Harumi was a good match for him. It sort of forced Lloyd to not only face the reality of you can't be naive and expect the best of every single person. And sometimes you have to accept that people are just not going to change. And sometimes you also just have to accept that ultimately, okay, where am I going with this? So, Harumi basically is smart. Like, she's really smart. She's several steps ahead of him. Basically what I mean is she's forces him to think more moves ahead. Like with Nadakon, he thought, like, Nadakon has several moves planned out, but they're fairly obvious moves, or moves that are not obvious because obviously they don't make sense. Like, Harumi's playing chess with Lloyd in a way. Lloyd should be able to pick out the pieces that should come next, and he does. Later on, he learns to play her game, and he's good at it. Like, he learns that skill. Harumi was such a good match to see Lloyd forced to grow. And I really like that. So, yes, Harumi may not be perfect. No, nothing is perfect. But I really was happy with what she did to Lloyd. manipulating him and forcing him to be someone himself, but better at what he did, and better at being a leader and facing things. And I like that. I like that a lot. And as far as the seasons, I just want to applaud them for taking away Lloyd's powers, because that was the ultimate best move ever. And I'm not one to say, like, I'm kind of sometimes at the point in this series, like, stop taking away their powers, will you? Like, just let them have them and face conflict. But with Lloyd, it actually needed to be done, and I didn't even realize myself that it needed to be done until it happened. Because yes, I knew Lloyd relied on it a lot, but actually what he needed to stop relying on it so much was for it to disappear completely and him not even know how to get it back. Like, that's almost icing on the cupcake, not knowing how to get it back, because yes, it would have been fine either way, but that just even left more stakes, because honestly, I was like, I'm sure he will, but, well, what if not? Like, because they've already surprised me by doing that, by taking that initiative and saying, no, Lloyd, no more green for you. Pew! It was so good because it forces Lloyd to really think critically and discover who he is, not based on a power, because that's been who he is for so long. It's so good to see him grow that way. And yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but like in the final battle, he doesn't actually ever defeat Garmadon with his power, ever. Like, he gets it back, and then he kind of thinks about it, and then he just doesn't do it. And that shows so much growth on his part. I love it, because it shows that he can have it back, yes, and he can use it again, but he knows now that that doesn't define him. And he knows now he can be strong and figure out problems surrounding it. Like, the problem doesn't need to be solved with his power. The problem can be solved multiple ways. In fact, maybe his power is the worst way for it to be solved. But he can work around that. And I really love that. That is like A+ growth, honestly. My second favorite now, next to Kai, honestly, growth-wise. The other thing those seasons did, I think that was really incredible, was taking away his friends. And yes, I would have loved to see them interact, though honestly, I totally, absolutely love it when the original four interact, so I wasn't too displeased. I was like, yay, the original four are together! This ought to be fun, because it's like chaotic every time they're interacting as a whole. Like, I love the whole team together, don't get me wrong, but they are like, it cracks me up every time. I love it. That interaction. They're just like, it's just so funny. But anyway, so having Lloyd, I thought it was so sweet, him and Nia interacting. And Nia was also a good character to pair with Lloyd, because she's almost like, she's not, like, I almost want to say motherly, but that's not it. She's really big sister, but even more so because she, like, in a way, she's been with Lloyd from the day that everything started, and she's just, this is like, I will protect you. I like to think that she really does think of him as a younger brother, because I really take it that way from the content I've seen of them together. But it's such a wonderful pairing, because Nia also doesn't, like, I would say she's a good leader, and in season 10 you see that, like, the team needs her to step up to be a component of leadership, but Nia herself isn't necessarily the character to take on the leadership role, but she is an incredibly good support to every character on the team, like, every single one. So I love it whenever she comes on and plays that supportive role, because she does it well, and it's not boring or forced. It's wonderful. And taking the team away and even throwing in a new team for Lloyd to command actually gives him real, oh, I am vulnerable, I cannot rely on my friends, and now I have to work with someone else. And it really pushes even the more of the leadership development that I wanted in season 7. Like Lloyd actually has to work through, he has to work through leadership roles. He doesn't know that team well. they don't know him well. He doesn't have a power at all. He can't really demonstrate some cases how to do things, but he is determined to be a good leader, and he does. I feel like it's like some things start falling apart at the end with, you know, them getting captured and everything, but he still proves that he's making strides to be a leader more than season 7. It's not something that's overcome in a couple episodes. He really has to work at it, and it's really hard for him, and he really struggles with it. Like I said, I know people don't always agree with this, but I feel like Lloyd, he might have woken up a little bit different. I still feel like he's Lloyd in some ways, but I feel like he came into those 3 seasons almost having this like flaws. And I know this sounds weird because, yeah, he was flawed before, but, like, he was naive. But now it's like, I almost take it like there's a sense of bitterness about him. And he doesn't take betrayal as hand-waving it after an episode. It sticks around. And it's just cut so good. Like, those are wonderful things to do for a character, because now I want to see him overcome that. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him defeat the bad guys and save the day. I want to see that, but it's hard to watch it when it's so, oh, well, this is how it's going to go. Like, those seasons seeing him really struggle and really face, and I'm not sure how he's going to do it. You know, it's like with season 2, when he defeats his dad the first time, sort of. Like, I know he's kind of possessed, but either way. When he defeats him the first time, it's very much, we know how it's going to go. We just know it. It's going to go down as he's going to use his power, it's going to overcome the evil, and bada bing, bada boom, evil's gone, save the day, hooray. Woohoo! Which is, yes, it's satisfying, but it's also, like, anticlimactic. Season 9 was like, whoa! like, the dragon can't even burn this guy. He's just so powerful. And you're just like, what is the key to defeating him? Like, nothing stops him. What in the world do you do? And Lloyd's just getting, beat up. Like, he's just getting the crud beat out of him. And, you know, it's like he jumps around and he's like, haha, I don't have to fight you because that's what's causing all this. But, like, it's so intuitive that he figured out, like, huh, okay. Like, that's something I felt like he didn't do before. He found the key to defeating the enemy and did it, and in this instance it was without actually fighting. But he did that, and at the end, yes, he gets his power back, but he realizes, I don't need that to defeat him, because that's not what I need now. It's something else. And I really appreciate it. I really love that. So, yeah. So that basically wraps up my major thoughts on Lloyd. I know this is a long one, and I probably am not even done with everything I have to say. But these are my basic problems, and what I really appreciated that they did in the seasons 8, 9, and 10. I really think that was a really good representation of Lloyd, and it's really good. I really appreciated it. But yeah, I love Lloyd as a character, and I'm really glad of where he went. He's come a long way, and I am really happy. I'm really happy with the boy. He's so sweet. But yeah, so I'll probably end up doing maybe like a character corner part 2 on Lloyd later, where I discuss some more topics. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content. Have a great day, guys, and thanks for watching. Bye! I just wanted to give a quick shout out to JF14 on Pinterest, who made this lovely piece you should be able to see right now of Garmadon's dragon. Thanks, JF14, for the lovely art. I appreciate it so much.